Welcome back to my channel. I appreciate you guys being here. It means a lot to me. You all have visited the videos and watched the videos and subscribed, and it's really making me happy that everyone wants to share in the journey that has been going on for the past 4 years since Joey passed away. I love sharing stories of Joey and Joey's life, and I don't especially like sharing the story of losing Joey, but it is a part of him and it is a part of me. So I appreciate you guys being here. Again, if anything that I talk about on here is actually helpful, or you know someone who can use some encouragement or needs to know that they're not alone in their stage of grief, then hit the subscribe button below or share my channel with them and ask them to subscribe so they can kind of watch through the weeks that I do. Last week we talked about losing Joey, and in losing Joey we talked about several of the stages of grief that went through my system quickly. So the next few weeks I'm actually going to go on a little kind of, my brain just died, sorry. We're gonna go on a little actual organization, and we're just gonna do each stage of grief over the next few weeks and kind of talk about what we're supposed to do as opposed to what actually happens. But there are 7 stages of grief, depending on who you talk to. Some people say 5, because 2 of the stages they kind of lump into other stages, and experts and counselors and doctors all say that this is pretty much the I probably should have typed stuff out today, but I didn't, so today's really just off the top of my head. But experts really think this is the formula for grieving and the sequence of grieving that most people go through, and I'm here to tell you that it might be a little similar, but it's different for everybody. The 7 stages of grief that they have are shock and denial, pain and guilt, anger, depression, upward turn, moving on, and hope. There is no right order to go through these stages. There are stages that intertwine with one another. There are stages that you go through and you move on to the next stage, and you go back a step or 5, and you can get stuck in stages, and you can find yourself thinking that you're getting towards the end of that grieving circle, and it doesn't go away. It never ends. And I had talked last week about when I lost Joey. I went through the shock and the denial immediately. Obviously the shock protected my system from feeling complete devastation more than I did. Shock helps your system not kill you. You don't die from it, and you really feel like you should. The denial that I went through was really, honestly, I didn't believe it was Joey. I thought that it could possibly be somebody else. It had to be somebody else. Even when I talked to the coroner and they got his dental records and they identified him and handed me his ashes, I was still in the thought that it was probably the wrong person. It was somebody else. They were giving me somebody else's baby, and that it couldn't possibly be Joey. And as time moved on, I started going through other phases, and I'm going to go through those phases each week. Today we're going to just talk about the shock and denial. It's been 4 years, and I'm not going to lie, I'm still in denial. I'm still waiting for Joey to come walking through my door or call my phone and say, "Ha ha, Joke's on you, Mom. It was a really horrible joke, but I did it and I pulled it off because Joey was always trying to get me. He was always trying to scare me, coming around corners. He was always trying to shock Mom, and Halloween was his favorite. By the way, happy Halloween. He absolutely loved Halloween. He loved dressing up. It could be a scary costume. It could be just a Matrix costume. It doesn't matter. He could be Shrek, or he could be something that's been decapitated, and he was happy. But he could never shock me. He could never get me as I walked around a corner, and he hated that. And so even 4 years later, I'm still waiting to come around a corner and Joey jump out and say, I got you. And I say that without a whole lot of emotion because that's something that I live with every day. It's a part of my new normal. I don't know if that will ever go away. I just feel a lot of times it's the fight or flight in my system, and my brain and my system is trying to stay in the shock state and trick me into thinking that Joey's just off with his friends or off to school or off living his life, and he's got more important things to do, which that would be so fantastic if that were the case, but it's not. But and that goes hand in hand with the denial. I just want to deny that he's really gone. I can't fathom the fact that my child is no longer a part of this earth, that his light isn't just bounding from friend to friend and from family member to family member, and that he isn't just bugging the hell out of people because that's what he could do. And I don't know what's beyond this life. I would love to say that I do. I have faith in God, and I pray all the time to help ease the pain of losing Joey. But it doesn't help. I've gone to see a medium to see, I don't know that I believe in them or not, but I went because when you've lost a loved one, especially a child, you want to know from someone somehow that they're still there, that they didn't suffer. My son was in a car that got hit from behind by a semi-truck, and his car burst into flames. I told you, doctors have told me repeatedly that there's no way Joey could have survived the impact, and yet his death certificate says that he died of smoke inhalation and thermal burns. So imagine a mother's nightmares that happen at night when you have speculation going on in your heart, and you want to deny that your child went through that, and you want to deny that anything bad happened to them. So back to the medium thing. I went to a medium because I wanted peace. I wanted to know that he didn't suffer, that he didn't burn alive. That sounds really awful, but that's what I'm going through. That's the real thing. That's what's going on. I needed to be able to deny that he burned alive. They said that there was no sign that he tried to take his seatbelt off. There was no struggle. So Joey didn't suffer. He didn't suffer, per the doctor. However, I did go to a medium, and the medium knew things that even if she Facebook stalked me, there was no way she could have known. While I was there, Joey wanted to talk about Kami because their last conversation was an argument, and he wanted to tell her that he loved her. But in the process of speaking with her and of Joey, she stated that Joey was sitting in his car, and the last thing he remembers is a car going by really fast, really close on the driver's side door, and he thought to himself, wow, that was close. And then within a second, he was standing on the side of the road with Pop. She would have never have been able to know who Pop was. Pop was his step-grandfather on his dad's side. his stepmom's dad and he were very close. They loved each other very much. He loved our family as well. But he was standing on the side of the road with Pop, and he had to watch, and so he could understand where he was and what had happened, and that he went straight across the gates of heaven, that he had a good soul and he had done good and he helped humanity, and he was able to cross over immediately. And we also talked about things that, you know, he would give me a sign to let me know that he was there, and other things that she would let me know about what he wanted to say to other family members, and that he wanted me to know that he understood, that he knew and he felt the love that maybe he didn't understand on earth. He now felt it, and he knows that I loved him and he was my heart. But even with talking to a medium, I got a little piece, but it wasn't much. And I went back into shock, and my heart hurt all over again, and I went back into denial and kind of trying to figure out, is it possible that it's not him? It's got to be possible that it's not him, that I've got some stranger's ashes sitting in a box that I look at and pick up and hug and talk to, and 4 years later, it's still going on. I've crisscrossed into other stages of grief. I have crossed over into anger. I have crossed over into depression and hope and moving on and upward turn. I've done all of it so far in 4 years, but I always crisscross and I always come back, and I'm stuck in this circle of the stages of grief. I'm not going to talk about it today, but I am currently stuck in the anger phase. I've not left the anger phase while I've gone on to other phases. I've not left the denial phase. I am in counseling. I go to counseling once a week. I do something that's called EMDR, eye movement desensitization. Oh my God, I can't talk. Desensitization. I don't remember what the R is, but it's basically, it takes a PTSD memory from your memory bank, and it distracts you while it moves it to another section of your memory bank, so that when you do remember it, you don't feel like there's an elephant sitting on your chest. So far, it has worked for some things in my life. It's worked for bullying, because I was relentlessly bullied as a child. Elementary school was a nightmare, but it helps as far as when it gets done for Joey. So far, it's not done anything, but the counseling helps. I talk about Joey. I write about Joey. I'm so fearful of people forgetting Joey or acting like Joey's just gone. He's not a part of this anymore, but he will always be a part of me. So again, that's another state of denial, is that he will always be a part of me and always be a part of my life, and he's not gone. But I don't feel him. And that's something else that we'll talk about another week. So if you're going through the stages of grief, just know that you're not going to go through them in order. You're not going to go through them for 2 days in this stage, 2 days in this stage. You might be a year in a stage when you touch other stages, or you may be 4 years in one stage and not be able to get out. Next week, I'm going to talk about the anger stage and where I'm stuck and why I'm stuck. And I'm going to talk to you guys about counseling and what my counselor talks to me about, and how we're trying to get me out of the anger phase so I can move forward. Part of me doesn't want to move forward, part of me does. So again, the 7 stages of grief, They're not a system. They are just words that people put in a specific order that they think is most logic. Our brains aren't always meant to be logic. So thank you again for coming back to my channel and watching again, and just know that I appreciate every person who has come and watched the videos, and every person who has subscribed. And my ultimate goal for this channel is to just tell the truth and be real about my experience of losing my child, so that someone else out there, even if it's just one person, knows that they are not alone in feeling like every book and every counselor is telling them that they've got to be one way, and they don't have to be anything. You don't have to be anything for anyone. You only have to be for you. And the only thing you can do each day is wake up and put your feet on the floor. Everything else goes from there. So again, thank you for being here, and next week we're going to talk about anger, being stuck in that phase, and what happens at counseling, and we'll go into a little more about what we're doing at my counseling office for the EMDR, if anybody is curious. So thanks again. Again, subscribe if you have not already, and join us each week as we go along. And happy Halloween, and be safe out there. Check the candy before you let your kids eat it. I always did. Hide the good stuff so you have it to eat later, okay? All right. Bye.